Greetings and salutations. I am Mr. Classic, and we are here in Mr. Classic's haberdashery at the Manor. On today's episode of Conversations at the Manor, I would like to talk with you a little bit about men's fashion. How do you become fashionable? So I've been posed the question quite often. I don't know my look. I don't know how to put it all together. I see the Instagram posts, I see the Pinterest posts, and I love the way a nice, well-dressed gentleman looks in a suit. I just don't know how to apply that same concept to me. I don't know how to put it all together for myself. So we're gonna go through step by step of how to create your fashion as a gentleman. Now, before we get started, I would like to have my morning tea, as I do every morning. Today, I'll be having a wonderful Japanese green tea out of my beautiful, beautiful handmade Japanese teacup. Diving into our topic, how to become fashionable, I want to take us through a brief journey of identifying what it is, that word fashion, as I'm referring to, and then how do we create fashionable from that. So the first thing that we need to do is to be able to define the actual word. So there are three key points in there. First, we'll look at identity, then we'll look at style, and then we'll take a look at trend. So these are the three elements that are within fashion. So the first, identity. Who are you? This helps when you have defined your profession, if you will. So if I know that I'm a businessman, I will use that as my identity to help me become fashionable, because now I have a starting point. So my identity is the businessman. What is the style of a businessman? How do they normally look? What do they normally wear? Which you can find on Instagram, Pinterest. You can see a lot of examples in magazines and kind of get little ideas of what a typical businessman would wear. Now, once you have that tied into your identity, now you're going to marry those two together and come up with your trend. Now, your trend, we know to be what's happening nowadays, what's current, relevant, what have you. But you can also look at trend as something timeless, what has been popular since the dawn of age, if you will. Vintage, something that's never going to go out of style. And once you look at that spectrum, you can see, where do you fall? Do you want to be more of the modern type of individual? And we're speaking on suits primarily. So do you want to be the modern suit wearer, where your suits are more fitted? They are a little shorter on the coat, far more tailored than they used to be? Or are you more in the vintage style with the antique fabrics and vintage fabrics and things of this nature, the pins and the 2-inch cuff at the bottom of the pant? So you got to figure out what type of trend do you want to fall within? What aligns more with your personality? I would like to take it a little bit further and take you through the actual process of creating a look, or looks rather, for your typical businessman. So we're going to look into that a little bit further. First, as we've talked about, identifying who you are, your identity. That's the first step in the process. Next, we want to figure out the style of our identity. If we are the businessman, how does that look? And last, the trend. Are we more modern? Would we like to do something more classic and vintage? Figuring out what those three things are will help us in our journey to becoming more fashionable. So now I want to take us through some actual suit options and different categories which you can fall in when you're thinking about the type of businessman you would like to be. Let's take a look at a few. There are three suits in particular that I feel will cover the range from most elaborate to most casual when it comes to the businessman. So we're going to take a look at those three today. The first being what I call your deal closing suit. So when people see you walk in the room with this suit, they know you mean business. The second suit we're going to look at is going to be your everyday type of suit. Not as flashy, but still very elegant. The third is going to be our casual suit, or in my opinion, a casual suit. The first suit we have here is going to be a three-piece navy blue pinstripe suit. So this suit is the deal closing suit. This is going to turn the most heads and get the most attention. Let's take a closer look into the details on this specific suit. The navy blue pinstripe, strong French shoulders, peak lapel at 4 inches wide, 2-on-1 flat pocket construction with additional ticket pocket and pick stitching. The iconic businessman suit. So the next suit in mention is going to be our everyday suit. Now that is going to be a 2-button notch lapel, gray with a subtle blue window pane suit. The more relaxed British style shoulder, notch lapels, and only 2 flat pockets is the definition of everyday office wear, not seeking so much attention. The last suit in our lineup today is going to be our casual suit. Now this one is a contrast between a navy blue check patterned blazer and a camel colored trouser. With this contrast and the jacket and pant, you will have the ability to come off stylish but not so formal. This is great for late evening meetings with colleagues or weekend work events. I hope this has been rather informative as well as helpful to you in your journey in becoming fashionable, with a focus on the businessman. So to recap just a bit, in the beginning of our video, we spoke on the 3 different elements that happened before fashionable. So breaking down your identity, who you are, what is your career, what career are you in? This will help figure out your identity, how you need to dress every day. So from that, then we start to look at the style. How does that identity look? What does that wardrobe look like? Look on Pinterest, Instagram, get some inspiration from magazines, if you will, but figure out what that style is. Lastly, we would say, what is the trend of that style, of that image? So is it more modern, or are you looking more of the vintage style? So what side of the spectrum are you falling on, more modern or more vintage? Once you've identified those 3 things, next, you need to identify the types of clothing that fit you and fit your image. So we went through the 3 different types of wardrobe for a businessman, from the deal closing suit, as I call it, the most elaborate with the colors and pattern, to your everyday, which is more subtle but still very classy, and then your casual suit, if you will, that you can wear on business evening dinners or just having drinks with your friends, still in a business type of setting, but more laid back. So if you're in need of more hands-on, one-on-one help with becoming more fashionable and creating your style, come visit me at Mr. Classics Haberdashery in Thee Manor. I'm right off of 10th Street in Atlanta, Georgia. So with that being said, I'm going to end as I begun, and that is going to be with a delicious cup of green tea. So I wish you all a wonderful day. And as I always say, remain classy, my friends. Cheers.